Hey, I had my mic off the whole time. Okay, so I'll just tell you, I'm studying the anatomy, and the I can make this bigger. Look, let's do this. I can come up here. Oh yeah, look at that. My webcam stays the same, so I can come over here and just come like that, and it'll, yeah, right here, perfect. And I was telling you about the oocytes. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's called I call it oocyte. So, and it was telling me about the sperm cells and the oocytes. I've got to know it. I mean, there's 23 chromosomes, and all normal cells have all of the chromosomes, but when it comes down to the egg and the sperm, they don't. So it's like, yeah. And then I'm like, I looked up the sperm. I'm like, well, I know it's not a lot. There's not a lot going on, and really, there's only like three or four things that happen within a sperm cell. In a egg cell, there's like 20 things, or 50. Really, there's a lot. There's more than 20. It's 50 at least. So like three things happening in a yeah, there's a haploid nucleus, a centrosome, and small amounts of cytoplasm and proteins. Okay, three things. One, two, three. And then it's got the tail. But I want to know the egg cell, which is the oocyte. I want to know the egg cell because it has a very uh, balanced way to stay alive inside of the body. It gets made and then it stays alive for a month or a couple weeks, however long it's there. And most all cells like that, they stay alive for months, weeks, years, some of them. But it doesn't die. So just knowing that it's a large version of a no, of a regular cell. It's preserved for a while, but it doesn't get a lot of the it stays alive, but it still has a lot of the stuff going on. It has to be a reactor for days on its own until the sperm gets there. And then after the sperm gets there, it gets the genetic material to do its splitting. It will split, and then you have two reactors. They are they will live for 100 years. Do you see what I'm saying with that? So it's like this egg is a reactor that has potential to live for 100 years, but it only lives for like a month. But what I'm saying is I'm wanting to study this because this reactor, the egg cell, before it makes the baby, is got it will live, and it's got it said up to a quadrillion atoms, anywhere from 100 trillion to a quadrillion. 100 trillion is plenty enough for me. I would never even get anywhere near knowing everything of that. And even with my 100 years of life, I could sit here every day and just kind of like go through stuff and like wanting to see some of the channels of the uh, how the how the electrons flow, how the protons flow, to learn the different sites of the pumps and the channels. There's a membrane, and it's got space in there, and they're protons by themselves. Fill that up, and then there's a spot where they can go in, and there's a motor, and it turns and it makes energy out here. And then there's another area where where in babies there's a it lets it out, so there's not too much, so they can have more heat, because babies need to make more heat, and the pump's not working. It's not needed yet. And like there's channels that are in there. I want to know that these channels, there's proteins. It just lets the I want to know proton and electron circulation. Okay. Now, it says 100 trillion atoms, and each atom is going to break up, you know, possibly 5 electrons, 5 protons. These single protons, I mean, you multiply it by 10. I mean, it just off that. And it uses water to break things apart. And when things hydrolyze, they will create a water and put themselves together, and a water will shoot out. And so when they get to the place, they will, an enzyme will come in and pop it back off, and the one will come over here, and it will act as extra electrons. There's electrons and protons here. And it's a clean atom, a very clean atom that gets all the way to the end. And it goes all the way down to just electrons and protons, all the way to the bottom. That's all it goes to. But there's you see this Na, sodium. There's K, which is potassium. Obviously, oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen. All that stuff is in there. And I want to know everything. And I mean everything. And I think I will go through my whole life. See, I asked phosphate what that was, and I just explained it to you. It's a clean electrons and protons. It's a clean package of them. So like when you have like sugar or something, it has to be like ripped apart, and you have to get to the core of it to make this little clean package that's very deep in the inside of it, the heart, that you can send into DNA. And these little things, they replace, and it puts electrons, clean protons that aren't like too needy. They're well, without creating any damage to a point. There's never a completely, there's always there's always too much, even all the way down. There's just a little too much always, but it has to be like that. So but yeah, I'm like coming down in here and I'm looking at the voltage. So I was just explaining all that stuff. I had my thing turned off, and I was sitting there doing like running through, and it's like, yeah, the mitochondria, 600,000 of them. I learned, it took me, I'm still not even done learning a mitochondria, and I've been in this class for 2 or 3 weeks, and I haven't even fully learned a mitochondria. So just imagine, my whole life trying to learn these electron and proton currents, you know, they're separated and they have to be organized and they have to be grabbed like properly so that you don't have too many, because it already is too many, and you have to be able to just get what is uh, not too much, but you have to have the right amount. And it's like it gives you a good amount, and it's still when you come out, it can't be it to make too much clobber down in there. So when it's being put together, there's no extras that take up time. You know, things have got to be done in efficiently and timely and perfectly, as much as close as possible. And nothing gets cleaner than a proton and electron with our body. We can't, like, we're like animals, you know. Our body cannot go deeper than that. And I'm asking about this stuff. And it's telling it to me. And so the thing is like we just have with being a doctor, you can have your whole life of fun just with, and I've chosen an oocyte cell. I'm wanting to be a perinatologist, which is obstetrician, and studying high risk pregnancies, and it's fun. I'm pretty athletic, you know, physically, and I'm learning everything athletically, and I follow this athletic guy who was probably a football player in college and high school, and he became a doctor, and he's very smart, and he's fast and funny, and so I pay attention to him. Yeah, he calls his viewers ninja nerds, and it's like, yeah, get the idea. You know, we got to go. We're doing it fast. You got 100 things to learn a day. You know, stuff like that. And I won't even get to the end of it, which is funny. And I know what a covalent bond is, and I kind of know what an ionic bond coming through here, and just seeing, you know, myself, all of this stuff that I will be learning. And it's going to be me learning it. And I had to go through here, and I was talking about it this morning. I think this whole thing right here, almost all of it, no, not all of it, but I came back to it this morning, sometime a lot this morning. Yes, it was right after the site where it was saying a quadrillion. That's where I went to bed last night. I'm like, okay, I'm too far. It was like 10 o'clock, and I went to bed. And then all that after that was this morning. And I'm sitting there learning it. And there's just so much to do. And you know, I'm talking to you about it. And this is what I'm going to get to do. I'll be paid $300,000 a year to make sure that every baby is born that I come in contact with. I will be a doctor that is already a hard baby, where it's being already diseased or developmental issue, and a lot of times it will be a bad birth. I've seen pictures of spinal cord coming out of the body, but it's still alive. And it's like there ain't no living baby like that. It's like as soon as it doesn't really, I don't think it can live, but it's like you want to save it. It's like we're studying, is it possible to save this baby? That's what a perinatologist is. And it's uh, not possible to stop things like Down syndrome, uh, these things that happen like this. There's no way to stop it because it comes from the sperm. Um, I think it usually comes from the sperm. It comes from genetic material from the egg and the sperm. It could come from the mom too. Some of it does come from the mom, but like you can't stop it because there might be the egg or the sperm that gets there has a kink in the DNA, and there was no way to know. You cannot control that. Maybe the dad was a cook and he was in the hot kitchen a lot, and his uh, sperm were a little too warm, and one of the proteins was a little bit denatured, a little bit not tight, and it was, passed like that. And, uh, you know, anything, someone living, working out in a chemical plant and they had a toxin, just one compound that was down in the area at the time, and it was passed with it. And these toxins do make their way far down into the depths of your body. And I haven't learned, I know it gets down in, I know they get down in there very far. I haven't learned it yet, but I know that these, if it's one compound, that's a little much and it can't be cleaned up before it gets sent out, then it's there. If it comes down to sperm, like it tries to have that filtering, but it needs blood flow. So there might be people that are in perfect health, and it's just like one, it makes its way through. You can be walking through the store, uh, and it comes off someone's clothes or anything uh, as a gas. You might breathe like some uh, gas from a passing construction site, and you're like, well, it came out of construction, and you had to drive through the dust, and a little bit got in your vent, and it didn't settle completely, and when you turned your vent on, it came through. Just all it takes is one compound still making it, and one compound is made of, guess what, 20 atoms. You know how hard it is to filter a 20 atom ball? It's pretty good. It happens 99% of the time. As you can see, there's not very many disabilities out there. But yeah. I was looking up this right here this morning, and you can look through it, and it's just trying to figure out the where energy comes from, and it gets to where it makes itself because the universe is um, like expanding, and it hasn't lost its expansion. I gotta use the bathroom. But what I can tell you is, with all of this, that science is amazing. So, yeah, so what I'm doing is I am like here's what a perinatologist is I will observe a baby, and if I can have the baby survive at any way possible, that's what I will do. Okay, use your brain to figure that out. Now let me tell you, um, the real thing is if a baby has to be born in the third trimester, and like just say it has to be born a month early, that's very deadly, right? 2 months early is very deadly. That would be probably the most that it could be born early, is 2 months early. So, as a perinatologist, I have to be able to make the decision, you know, to, is the baby dead? You know, do I use my education? Do we abort the baby to save the mother? Um, do we have enough money to keep this baby alive? It really, do we have enough money and education to keep this baby alive? Um, so, and it's like that, and it's like, yeah, if a baby is born on time but it has a disability, to check on it for about a week after it's alive. That's what I've been seeing, is usually check on it real good for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but after that it's usually pretty stable. Some babies, they're born and you know they're going to die within like 6 months or something, but they are born. Certain defects, like where they're born with half their brain, or maybe 25% of their brain, and they're breathing and they can eat, but they'll die. And so it gets like that. It's like, well, some babies, they don't have too many they don't have issues like that, but they have to be born so early because something happened, like they got a hole in their heart, or don't know, maybe the mother. Yeah, it's not like that, because we might be able to look into their heart and stuff and find holes, but it might not be the baby at all. Uh, it might be the yeah, like doing surgery on a baby, having it born early to do surgery on it. But also the mother, some mothers get very high blood pressure, and there's no way to stop it, uh, that we found, and that I've read, and I've said I read somewhere, whenever there's no cure, and what helps stabilize it some is magnesium. It helps the mother not get a seizure. She might be able to do it for like a month or something, to give her high magnesium so she doesn't get a seizure from the high blood pressure, and so she can have the baby at a proper time. Uh, Obviously, it costs a lot of money to have a baby early and for it to sit in the hospital for a month, and people can't always afford that. And what it is the reality of it is we don't have the money to do, and I have to make my educated guesses, my educated decisions on whether or not a baby can survive. I have to talk about, I'll be doing finances. I've seen on here where some people were doing experimental machines, and there was like this new machine that was kind of okay, but and he come out with it and it wasn't. He wasted money. He's like, yes, I did this as a one time to see what it was, and he knew it wasn't that good, but he wanted to know himself, and he said it wasted money and it was worse. And so he came out with that in the journal, and it's like, the amount of money that is spent and wasted by doctors cannot happen. So, there's not too much experimenting to do. The things that's going to be huge is right here. Now I asked this earlier. You can be reading from this, but experience smooth motion. Yeah. Okay, but anyway, the 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 babies, my job, perinatology, will be the. It's because he keeps going ahead of me. I can't keep doing it. The baby is. I'm the only person that will be able to take care of it. There's going to be like, 2 or 3 doctors around, and we can't be experimental. We have to know what we're doing. The baby can't go through an experiment. The doctor can't experiment on women to see what the costs of things are. And so it's like, yeah, it would be like some baby might need a surgery that's born at 7 months. And then there's a baby that might be born, but it needs to be checked on for a couple weeks. There was one article that I read where right before the baby was born, about a week before it was born, something was going on with its blood pressure. No, it was being born, and just normally. And when the baby was born, its heart was being born. It takes, a day, and they were measuring the baby's heart rate, and the baby's heart rate was going up, and then it would stabilize, go up, and then it was up for a long time, and they were, there's a few options that happen with that, and it's like possible stroke, possible just stress, because when a baby is being born, its adrenaline is higher than an adult when he's being mauled by a tiger. So the baby's adrenaline is so high, and that could cause the heart rate to be up. And so the thing is with my job is to, what really helps this stuff is I'm in a very small scope. Like, I can put down what I know is down in here. I've studied. I told you in the beginning, I said about the compounds that make their way into the dad. That's not something I can stop. Our economy has to keep going. There's dirt out there, and we hope our bodies can filter it. And so I might be doing some surgeries and things like that on babies, and checking up on babies, and I'm thinking like just being able to know the surgery, knowing proper medicine, maybe to get the baby up for a few days, but you're really not supposed to be giving anybody nothing at any point in time. Like, I mean, medicines are just awful, like synthetic stuff. Surgery is good if you have like a hole repair, and then you can put some, like, do some water. There's a few things that you can put in there, some scaffolding, but and obviously you stitch it up, but your body makes itself. And when you try to like fix it with painkillers and things like this, you are not helping. You're drying yourself out and making your body work, and it's bad. So surgery is okay, but pills are pretty bad. I take D3. I take B12. I have to take a B12. It's like there's some people that do take supplements, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah, a baby would need to be born early because it's because it may be diabetic. You know, the type 1 diabetes. I don't know, something that can be found early, like type 1 diabetes, and it has to go ahead and start getting insulin, or else it's going to die before it's born. You know, I don't know what things are coming up, but it's something like that. And it's like there's a few things that are okay. So like B12, I'm vegan and I take B12. I don't get B12 from plant food. It's not made. So then the but everyone knows about type 1 diabetes and how they have to have insulin shots. And so I know this stuff right here. Um, but I just wanted to go through, like this morning I went all the way down into some deep physics, and I went through these orbital physics to try to figure out what's going on down around these protons right here. I was trying to figure out, this is DNA. I was trying to figure out what's going on here. You know, what exactly is this? Okay, a proton's holding it together. Okay, so a proton is right here holding this, all of these. There's a proton. Very weak. And if you was seeing that, you would have read it. But I was like, okay, so where is this spot? So like right here, it's like the proton is weak, and then it gets kind of unstable. It like the current is pulled, but the proton is still together, and it's on both sides. You know, it's in the middle of it, and it's sharing things, but it's very weakly being pulled, but not enough to hurt itself. It's not even enough to hurt a proton. So I'm like, okay, if protons are down there, they're not getting damaged. It's clicking right now. Then I don't need to go down in there. Our body does this, puts these protons here on their own. We don't have to do that. The universe and the protons on their own. I don't have to study physics. It wanted me to. I wanted to myself see what's going on down here, what makes me better. Then I looked into it. Yeah, the doctors have been doing this for 10, 20 years. They've already been ahead of me. That's why I was able to just Google this stuff. That thing that I showed you was 8 years old. That picture, that gray picture with the R's and the gray stuff and the things poking out. So that was 8 years old. And, you know, he got that from somebody else. And so it's been coming for a long time. And then I'm getting to it. I'm using my common sense. I'm like, okay, so here's the universe. It's got its own way of doing it. Okay? The DNA right here. It's got its own way of doing it. It makes itself. Okay, so I don't do this. A doctor does not come in and snip this stuff. The electrons and do it themselves. And the protons and the electrons, they do it themselves. And I'll tell you, like you put good food in, you get good food out. That's the way it works. It's clean, as I'm telling you. It doesn't get for us. like we're looking for clean energy, it doesn't get cleaner than a single proton and a single electron. We don't have the tools to snip further than that. We're trying to find it, but I'll tell you, you can't snip protons. I mean, our body does it itself. And there's things that are in protons and stuff, and it's like there's things that are inside of that. But like, we can't even snip DNA. There's no way that we're going to get around to snipping protons. Our body does it itself. So the most that we can snip is a heart. We can snip hearts. We can snip our own organs and tissues, and we can put scaffolding in, which would be some like carbohydrate formula, and to inject it in a site so it could be an area of scaffolding, which would be like little tubes that the cells can grab and that they can move to put the proper stuff there, and then when they're done, they'll release the scaffolding. It's like dissolvable stitches. So this stuff right here, it knows how to do that because it's electrons, and they are constantly shaving. They're moving like this, shaving things, making it clean as possible. And so what's left is the best things. And so, like, we're beat by the elements and stuff like that, and we're aged, and breathe in chemicals and just get areas that get beat down. It loses oxygen. Things lose oxygen because it's having to work on garbage, and it can't supply the oxygen or the water. And so it's like, well, if I was to help heal this, I wouldn't have been able to clean this garbage out. That would have just been scraping everything around the block. So I took this out, and I didn't get to heal this, but at least we ain't got some bullshit. So that's how our bodies are. And anyway, all this snipping stuff, it's taken me 15 years. See, I'm already getting very close to knowing all of this stuff. I'm looking at this chemical organization. I know how big it is. I'm getting to study it. I'm going to need to know the names. And I mean, there's a lot. Polymerase, I don't know what polymerase is. I don't know, multiple. It's an enzyme, so it's made out of proteins. The RNA transcript, it's giving, it's putting in, it's split, and it's going to be putting in the stuff, and it'll put it back together. I haven't read it yet. I've seen it done, but I haven't read it. I want to read it. I've done some stuff, but I couldn't sit here and give you the 100 on the test. So, the codon, but yeah, I know some of it, and what it does, it'll split, and then it'll add, and it will like cement it back together, and it does it actually in blocks, like it does that top one. It'll do it all at once, and then the bottom one, it'll do like 25%, and then it'll skip 25%, and then it'll do the other side, and then it'll come back in and do. I don't know why it skips anywhere, and it does the whole top one. So that's, part of that. And that it does it on its own. So I was reading somewhere where it said it's so it doesn't mess up. So it's like, it's I don't remember what it said, but it's the so it doesn't mess up. It was so it doesn't mistake uh, a placement. Um, it's like it needs to do the top one, but it can do the bottom one in sections, and it's like it doesn't need to do it all because the top one's good, and so it can't hit the bottom one, so it does the bottom one in sections because it spins it all on the top one, and then it'll slowly bring the rest of the stuff in and do the bottom one in sections. And then it puts it back together. That's what it is. Is it can come in with everything it needs to put one side together, then the other. So it's because it would be too flappy and it would hit each other. So it stabilizes one, so this one down here can flap around some, and then it'll finally smooth it out and put it together. It takes. I think it takes it like 20 minutes, something like that. I don't know. It would be however many sections. Right here it's showing that it's just doing a part. It's funny because it'll open up and it'll bring it in, and I'm sure there's proteins that will yeah, it does. Oh well, it does the splitting. You know, y'all know how it splits and stuff. So it's a lot, and I'll be going through my whole life to figure this stuff out. But yeah, I don't even know what these clouds are right here. So it says polymerase. But yeah, I mean, this is how far I am. So Met Pro. Yeah, these are actually the translation, the proteins. So there's all of these proteins. I was telling you about the 100 trillion atoms. All these proteins. One of these proteins is made out of like 100 atoms. Okay, 100 atoms, 100, 100, 100. Uh, and they aren't even I mean, they might be between 50 and 100. Some of them are 50, some of them are 100, and they're not even symmetrical, uh, or they're not. Yeah, obviously they would be different if you know how compounds are. It's like there might be a oxygen over here one time, and then the next one there's a sulfur here, and then there might be I've seen then a phosphorus, and then it's a hydrogen, and then a nitrogen. So it's like, okay, so that's like five different ones, and then you got the whole thing over here, and it's like so many combinations, you know, um, seemingly infinite. And I think I've actually heard that. So, um, and yeah, I mean, I gotta start reading, but I wanted to tell you where I'm at, and I'm on chapter 3. Yeah. See, I didn't finish chapter 2 yet. No, this is protein synthesis. I'm on chapter 3, y'all.